We're live.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 13 of the podcast Unlimited Wisdom with Robert Hollis. I'm Craig A. Jackman, along with Matthew Hollis, and we are so glad to have you today. It's episode 13, as I'd mentioned, and on this episode, Robert will be interviewing a very, very special guest, Dr. Anthony Van Tonder. And for those of you who do stay until the end of this podcast, you will receive a special gift from Dr. Ant, as he likes to be called. But you do have to stay until the end of this podcast to get the information to receive that special gift. So hang on. We got a great podcast ahead of you. So let's get started and welcome Robert Hollis, Matt Hollis, and Dr. Anthony Van Tonder.
Hello, everybody. How you
Hey,
doing?
everybody. Nice to have you
Well,
on, Doc Ant.
Great to be here, Robert. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Craig. It's fantastic to be here. I've been following you guys and having such a giggle with you. I love your spirit. It's great to be on whenever you guys are on. Love to be here.
well, we got a lot of great information to share here, and Craig and Matt are going to chime in when a triple PhD. That's impressive to me. Very, very, like I said, when him and Michelle, his wife, Doctor Doc M, is on. There's more degrees than a thermostat. So we're definitely going to learn something here. And I want to start with that question. When I got to know Ant, as he calls himself, he says, listen, only my friends and close people call me Ant. So would you please call me Ant? And I said, absolutely. So, and the other thing that I would like him to share, which I think is pretty interesting, is when I shared with you and I was calling you Dr. Anthony, and then you had me shorten it up to DOC. Explain to people first, so as we go through and everyone just goes, wow, Robert's just calling him Ant. It's first because I look at him as a family member now. So please share that with everyone.
Absolutely. Because you see, the Doc Ant is a nickname purely because of the three PhDs. But as you know, Robert, it's a push here, dummy. That's where it came from. But that's where the Doc Ant came from. It's really a term of endearment, and people started calling me that because of the three PhDs. But the people call me doctor. I feel like so uncomfortable until one day somebody said to me, doctor. I said, hold on. Do you want to take your clothes off? Then what do you mean? I said, well, if you're going to call me doctor, I have the right to ask you to remove your clothes. And if you have to do a little bit of an inspection, let me get my gloves on. And they went, okay, I get it.
Keep
So
going.
yeah, then they get it. I'm not doctor, I'm doc. And that's just a term of endearment, doc Ant, but Ant, cool, whatever.
Yes.
Makes no difference. Yeah.
One of the things that I said to my wife after having such an incredible time, and thank you again for you and your wife allowing us to spend and get to know each other, is the thing that I said to my wife afterwards is exactly what you said to me. You'll think of a doctor. Of course, the first thought is medical. But one of the things I thought of too is in old movies, they always called people doc, whatever. And the reason that they did is usually because these people actually came to their home. You know what I mean? It was doctors actually came to people's homes and they treated them like human beings. So that's the way I look at you. I look at you as someone that is going to take the personal time and attention to really, really help somebody, again, if they really want help. So the other thing I want to talk about before we get started is tell everybody a little bit about you. Who are you? Where'd you grow up? Did you used to be an auto mechanic that was dyslexic? No, I'm kidding. So get everybody caught up with who you are.
Well, a bit of background. That is, obviously studied at university, left it, went to the Defense Force, uh, got the rank of captain, went into the wholesale world first. Then I went into retail. After retail, I went back into the business market. Then I went into ministry for 10 years, by the way. But while I was
Wow.
yes, I was in ministry for 10 years. But maybe it's a good story to tell is that while I was training 40 CEOs of companies, I just felt that there was a voice speaking to me, and I said, guys, can you hang on? I'm just getting this garbled message in terms of, and I heard the question, did you follow your calling or did you follow your passion? I shot with the instinct. I said, of course I followed my calling. I went, you followed your passion. You followed your passion for families. And I went, wow. And I actually had a few people say, you know what? Why don't we just pray about it right now? And they gave me a vision of a huge door opening and seeing a room with a lot of gifts and diamonds and you call it and gold bars and a light behind it and saw me walking through it into the light. That was the 16th of June of that year. And on the 1st of July, I made the transition from full-time ministry back into business, and I started my own coaching program for a 3-year contract. And then I went into one of the big people like Anglo Gold Ashanti in South Africa, which is the mining industry, then into Sasol, until eventually I became obviously a coach, a personal coach, an executive coach, a business coach, and I've been coaching ever since. But
Wow.
my passion is I dream of helping people unleash their full potential. That's really what it's
Nice.
about. Yeah, and
Nice.
that makes me get up in the morning to say, the next person, how can I help? If I can just help them just get the next little step, I feel so accomplished. What a what a blessing and just something to be grateful for every day that somebody says, wow, you just helped me just notch up one bit.
That's why a lot of people in the world look at me and of course they don't understand. They're going, if I had your money, I wouldn't be doing anything anymore. And I'm like, how freaking boring is that? Because when I first got in, my life was all about the science of achievement, you know, ah, achievement, get the rings, all that. And after I did that, I was still empty. It was neat to knock it out, but I learned really, really quickly that when I got these trophies on stage, that was a moment of happiness, a moment of happiness. And then the next day is not a moment of happiness anymore. So what really, really turns me on and juices me up is the pursuit of the next happiness moment, the hero's journey. You know what I mean? And it's the pursuit of doing that. So one other question is, so what got you sort of involved in the direct sales industry and stuff like that? How did that come about? Is this something that your wife just pushed on you, or how that?
I can tell you yes. Okay, and you never been. It was on Christmas Eve. She got me to a meeting, and I went, it's the 24th of Christmas, for heaven's sake. And you'll not believe it was one of those meetings. And I said, not in my life. But then the idea of passive recurring income hit me for the first time in my life. Because you know what? Up until that point, I never have heard the term passive recurring income. And it was just imagine. I mean, you working 85, you were taught, go to school, go to university, get a degree, work for a boss, get a salary, and you want to be like that for the rest of your life. When will you have independence? And it was my desire for independence financially that said, let's do something on the sideline so that we can have passive recurring income, so that over a period of time, we live off passive income as opposed to being enslaved to a system.
Right. Well, because one of the things I love about this industry is, man, I tell people it's a personal development program with a compensation plan. So meeting people like you and networking. I think Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad said it best. There's only two groups of people on the planet. One group that's working for somebody, and another person that's trying to constantly increase their network. When I say that today for people that don't understand it, you look at Mr. Beast's YouTube channel, and he's making millions of dollars a month, and then he does videos of him giving that money away. There couldn't be a truer network. And when you look at some influencers and some YouTubers and stuff like that. So networking and helping people that need help, there's nothing better. And so, Matt and Craig, you got any questions before I let this guy loose?
Nope, just loving listening so far. So, yeah, can't wait to hear more.
Awesome.
I agree. Same thing here.
Okay, great. So, I'm going to call him Ant to the rest of this deal because I do feel he's my friend. I know this is going to sound weird for those of you that don't understand this, but for those of you that do, this is my ministry. I learned very early in life that I wasn't called to be an evangelist or a pastor, and you probably have never heard this, but I used to tell people that I was a entrepreneurial evangelist because I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur meant. I didn't know what direct sales meant, and that's why I get so confused with people putting labels on stuff because everyone has a different definition to that label or that word. And so as soon as it gets all cobblated in their head of what they heard from an opinion from everybody else, then it's done. So, I don't want to interrupt you much. I want to let you just really tell people here what you've discovered in your leadership role, because as you step into the industry of the people business, I just call it the people business. You know what I mean? And Unlimited Wisdom is a community of individuals that are all working together to just a betterment of I guess what you would say, politically correct. Is it person kind? It's no more mankind.
Humankind.
They're getting confused. They're actually getting confused. One of my great mentors, Dr. Bruce Wilkinson, always said, we need to move people along the line. You meet some people at minus 48, but then you need to still get to zero, only then to get into the positives. But whenever you spend time with any human being, your job and my job is to move them along the line, even if it's a little bit, because, I believe that the greatest solution to any problem is always a person. So as we engage, as we speak to people, we want to just move them that little bit along. And you never know what impact you had. You never know how you influenced them. But you'll hear years after that. Thank you for what you did that time or said that time. And you go, wow, you don't even realize it. But you see, if it's born in and sort of inside of you to keep on helping people. Like I say, I live to shape people for significance. I really would like to do that. I really like to unleash their potential, but that means I need to have the ability to connect with them first. Because without connection, you can't do it. Because Robert, you said the other night, people don't want to be taught anymore. That was a big boom in my mind. The days of standing in the lecture room and you talk to the people, it's out, especially when you come to the new generation. I mean, talk about Matthew and their generation. They want to be involved. They want to be part of the solution. You start talking to them, they feel you talking down to them. It's like, do you think we can't think for ourselves? They want to be embraced and they want to actually come up with a solution. Like Doc M always says, the brilliance is in the room. We just need to know how to tap into it and bring that brilliance out in the room. So we become facilitators of processes, really, in a sense. And it's always people first. Craig, do you agree with that? Let me just hit on you there.
Sorry, I'm doing some things here in the background, but yes, I absolutely do. You have to have an open mind and you have to be able to accept what is considered reality. And that is so important. And just being there, being aware, that is it.
Sure. So keep feeding me. Keep feeding me.
Keep feeding me. Yes.
Yeah. Go and go.
Sorry, I've got other things I'm working on.
Perfect.
So
and Robert, if I look at Matthew, I've heard Matthew speak before. So eloquent, knows what he does. He's so actually in his zone in terms of AI and IT. And you know what, Matt, you are the future. And Robert and I would be absolutely ducks in the water dead if we don't ask a guy like you. So, well, Matthew, what do you think about the future? How do you see it being developed? How do you see what do we need to embrace so that we can continue to engage and connect with people? Because we could miss it totally because we think we're of the same ilk. We're baby boomers. We think differently.
Yeah, I think it's like, half of it is like, I think the younger generations, mine, as we've grown and stuff, want more of a seat at the table, and now being like more of the majority and stuff, I can see almost the whole economic, like I've talked about this quite a bit, but I think AI really is the downfall of what we currently know as capitalism. And whatever ends up existing after that, whether it's like types of capitalism or whatever it may be, that's where the world's kind of going. And I think because of that, and because of AI, where there's going to be like an exponential growth in human connection, or a requirement for human connection. Because I think as we've grown our society as human beings, we've pushed more into automation, but it's more human automation, right? Like there's so much people spending 8, plus hours a day doing monotonous work when we know to a certain extent most people only valuable for like 4 hours of that work anyway. A lot of this stuff we know scientifically, and yet we just choose to ignore it. We choose to allow like the problem to get worse. So I think really what we need is more communication with one another, more openness with one another. And I think that's why our society now complements that. Like when someone's more open and more upfront about who they are, they're rewarded for it more than this person that tries to like hide in the dark and not talk about themselves or not share bits and pieces about themselves. You know, maybe there's an element of certain things that happen in your past that you're worried to talk about. I think it's great to be upfront and just be like, this is the stuff that I've messed up on. You know, I think that humility is like such a huge part. And when I'm seeing the younger generation and my younger like millennials, and I can't really speak for the generations much younger than me, but I see a lot more openness about mental health, about our place in one another's lives and those types of things, but I don't really see as many solutions. And I think that's where AI kind of matches that, is it takes a lot of that automation that we've kind of all grown up in away. When a lot of that disappears to AI, we'll have so much time to kind of like figure out what the hell we actually are, less work, and hopefully great things come from that. I'm optimistic about it because I believe in people, to be honest. Like I believe in the heart of humanity. And I think even though we go through like a lot of growing pains, a lot of bad shit, like consistently, what ends up happening at the end of all that stuff is positive growth, even if it's incremental. And I think for whatever reason, we take advantage. We don't think about that enough. The incremental growth from now of 50 years ago, the things that my children will have at their disposal as far as education is stuff that I could never imagine. You know, as they are born and grow up, they'll have artificial intelligence that knows them, could tutor them, could teach them and help them excel at the things that they're meant to do with their lives. And I didn't have any of that. You know, I had the internet, and I know you guys didn't have that. So it's
Well, let me
almost
ask
like
you
that's the
one thing,
generational thing.
Matt. Matt, let me
Yeah.
ask you one thing. We speak about artificial intelligence. I actually want to launch tonight something that I believe that we call automated intelligence, because I really believe that there is a way that if we truly have the ability to connect with people, that we can actually change behavior. So your automated intelligence actually becomes automated behavior, which, as we know, a habit that is done over 21 days becomes permanent.
Right.
Therefore, I really believe that we can change the way that people are behaving if we change the way that they think. That's why, instead of artificial intelligence, I actually think there's also automated intelligence. In other words, I'm saying if you don't combine people and artificial intelligence, you will not increase your bottom line in business because those two play a vital role. You cannot just be dependent on artificial intelligence. What do you say about that?
I mean, I think to a certain extent, you're absolutely right. Like, I think that there's going to be large groups of people, and this is very subjective, that, you know, I have friends in my life that like love, it's not that they don't love to interact, but they're more introverts and they like their interactions are more like I choose when to interact and then I prefer to be alone, right? And I think I'm the exact opposite, right? Like I love being around people. I love talking to people. So it's almost a nightmare for me to be like in this situation alone. So I think for those people, AI will kind of help. But I think for a large majority of us that like need human connection a lot more or more consistently, I think we'll just continue to strive for it. I agree that there's a certain aspect of us, like there's going to have to be this symbiotic relationship between us and technology and artificial intelligence for it to work. I agree, especially long term, because there's almost like I think there's going to be a huge generational gap between my children and my generation, the generations before, just based off of abilities, you know? Like if you see kids nowadays with computers that were born and raised with computers, obviously they excel at computers more than the generations that didn't have them. And I think the fact that there's a whole generation that grew up with social media and we saw how that kind of changed humanity. I can't imagine that symbiotic relationship with human beings with AI in the mix, because I think in a lot of ways they'll help us interact with one another. Like there's so many things that are wrong with social interactions right now due to like anxiety, social anxiety, these certain types of social pressures. I think as AI exists and we get more used to talking to it and it becomes more human, it'll become more easy to talk to one another, if that makes sense. Like the more
It does.
human we make AI, the more me talking to you becomes easier because what is kind of the difference between those two things? It's like I could say
Well,
that you could judge me, but the realistic aspect of that is we're working towards not caring about that at all. So I think AI will definitely help with that for sure. I could see that symbiotic relationship being a massive growth in human connection. So
Robert, you're blessed. You're blessed to have a young man on board that is ahead of us, man, and knows where this is heading. And you know what? I really think that's a partnership between the different generations to realize that we need to embrace it. But you know, Robert, if there's one thing that you've taught me is in terms of the people factor. You have role modeled to me in terms of it's not about selling, it's about marketing. You know, we're so used to in the industry, like in the previous way, sell, 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 sell. Whereas you came with a human approach. And I want to tell you straight out, if ever I have in my life experienced love in action, Robert Hollis. And I tell it, and it's from my heart, because you know what, Robert? You touched me. You touched the way that you work with Michelle and I. Here we are speaking to the Robert Hollis. If I look at all the previous people that we've been involved in, oh my boy, just to get close to them, to touch their cloak, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you were right here to say, hey, here I am, guys. And the ability to laugh at yourself. I mean, you are just lightening up how it should be with people and how people should be interacting. And I'm so glad to see Matt and both Craig going, yeah, that's exactly Robert Hollis. And I'll tell you one thing, that's why I'm honored to be on with you tonight, because we can all learn from how it should be done. You know, laugh at yourself, connect with people. And man, it's about the more you do it, the better you're going to get. Just keep going. And I think, thank you for that lesson of life. I really appreciate that.
Wow. When you said that on the call that me and your wife was on, and he just said, Robert, you're just loving action. And it choked me up then, it's choking me up now. I've never heard that phrase, and man, does that resonate with me. Because what you said is the part that I know that you're really focused on, is getting people to understand that they need to love who they are. And you know, we all talk about this hardwired. I know when I said that to you and you said, I love that phrase. I just see the younger generation, you know, hardwired into the wrong things. You know, to think that the younger generation is on social media and it's one, pick a side, two, hate everybody on the other side. I was never taught that. I was never taught that. I grew up around a bunch of people that told me if I went to any family gathering, I don't even remember who said this to me. And they go, oh, by the way, we're going to a wedding reception, or we're going to, you know, a dance or whatever, street dance. And they said, listen, just remember not to talk about these three things. Isn't that crazy? The baby boomers were told, listen, that we're going here to have fun. We're going here all to enjoy each other's company. Can you not talk about religion, politics, and money? Do not talk about those things. And get this, my wife's best friend, Jolie, they've been best friends since kindergarten. If I ever mention, I tease her. I've known her forever, as long as I've known my wife. In fact, Jolie introduced me to my wife. Isn't that crazy? And so I can say to Jolie, hey, what are you making nowadays? And I'll tell her, and she goes, why do you keep asking me that? I'm never going to tell you that. And I'm going, man, if you can't talk about money, how can you get better at money? It's crazy that it's just this silent thing. And nowadays it's like, oh my God, let's slam people that make money. Let's slam people that have a different religion. Let's slam people that don't have a religion. It's like, if you don't think the way I think, you're an awful human being.
But you know what? If there's one thing that just comes to my mind now, is that we also need to accept and embrace the fact that we need to allow ourselves to fail. You know, like our friend John Maxwell says, you know, Michelle and I have known him for years. When you fail, fail forward and at least take a little bit of ground. So
Yeah.
that's his joke. And in terms of allow yourself to fail, because as you fail, you step up and you become literally more skilled in that area. So I want to encourage that, even if we with the younger generation, it's okay if we get it wrong. But if we don't try, how will we know? And if they don't try, how will they know? Because you see, if it comes back to really what my heartbeat is tonight, and that is about unleashing potential and getting people to a point of personal growth. Because the thing is, before you can grow a team, you have to grow the individuals in the team. Before you can grow a company, you actually need to make sure that those three align and that they actually form a collaboration into a corroboration. I mean, that's the essence of how companies get results. Of course, we know what leads the company is the vision up front. We know what holds it together, what to do is the mission. We know that's the value system that will carry them of how they do it. But boy, if the people are not engaged in terms of the people, into the team, into the vision of the company, if there's not a pattern of growth, they will not make it in today's industry. That's why now when we spoke about AI, which is artificial intelligence, I say automated intelligence into automated behavior, I think there's a new partnership forming in terms of media that you and I did not know about. I mean, come on. In my days, Matt, don't laugh. I mean, we didn't have a television. We didn't have mobile phones. I mean, those are things that sort of came about in our age group. My kids were born, my son is 10 years older than you. And I mean, they saw mobiles and televisions for the first time in their life, but we had to grow into that. So times are changing. So the issue of growth starts with personal growth. And that's why I just felt that if I can tonight just add a little bit of help in terms of where do we start? How can we just box it so that we can go somewhere? And I know that Craig has got some illustration there, so I can just sort of just picture to the guys where we're going with this, if that's okay with you. Is that all right?
I will go ahead and post that up, but I just wanted to add, if I may, and Doc Ant, what you're saying too is, especially today, because we have such an 8-second society where people want it and they want it yesterday. The phrase that I always used to say was, Lord grant me the patience, I want it now. And that is, you can't use that in today's society with how quickly things are advancing, and exactly with what you're saying, because you said, okay, it takes 21 days to turn a habit into, or to make something a habit. If you're going to change something, you got to give yourself grace. And I know that we say that a lot too in our podcasts, is you have to give yourself grace. You're learning from square one, and an AI is still being learned. Look at all of the different things that are out there. And you've got to just understand that, yes, it's happening. These people who are, have built AI to this point, yeah, they're a little bit ahead of the curve, but that's not the masses. And the masses trying to adopt this new technology, they have to learn on a regular basis. Matt shares with us all of this all the time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch how he is learning kind of vicariously through him, is what we are witnessing.
Yeah, we all get on the imaginators and watch Matt pull off some stuff when we're just all standing there with our mouth wide open.
Oh,
that's gonna be more normal too, by the way. The exponential curve of it all is just increasing. Like I actually have a question for Doc, if you guys don't mind. But Craig, if you guys wanted to go in that, I could ask the question afterwards, because I know you're building towards that. So
shoot, you're thinking about it right now, man. Go.
Okay, because I got to prep for that. I've got a slide I want to show while you guys are talking.
Awesome. Yeah. My question would be like, I think that there's a large amount of lack of connection, and that comes from like a place of like I feel like our society and community is so individualistic, and it almost works that way in a circle, like time wise, like humanity in a sense goes through these generations where it's like, no, we're all a team and we're doing this together. And normally that's through like war and all these things that kind of force our hand to be that way. But now we're kind of at a place where maybe we didn't really see social media and this level of connection or these things existing. So now we're in like kind of such an individualistic society that it's almost like, I love sharing all this optimistic stuff that I'm talking about us connecting, but there's also this aspect of myself that really fears that we've built such an individualistic society, And like you were even saying, Dad, when you go to like something and be like, don't talk about these subjects. I could tell you guys for a fact that my generation is like the opposite. It's like,
Yep.
oh, if you don't talk about those things, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that's like the total flip, right? Where it's like someone says, "Oh, I'm going to vote for Trump this season," and half the people leave the barbecue. You know what I mean? Um, and I think that that's an interesting thing. So I guess if I had to put it into a question, is with what you're sharing, how do we kind of get back to a place of not thinking so much about ourselves and thinking more about humanity and like our community and others more? So
That for me comes to the core of one thing and one thing alone, that we're moving into an age where we have to realize that everybody has been literally living behind masks. People have been in the area of pretend. People have been trying to project who they're not. And the problem is you can only keep up that facade for so long. A friend of mine is writing a book on masks, and I believe the key is, and I agree with him, his name is Percy Fick, and I want to give him his credit for this, is that authenticity is the solution. If we can actually get the younger generation to say, it's okay to be you, be real with yourself, be authentic. And we get the old timers like your dad and myself to go, okay, we're going to not try and pretend we know, but I only ask, hey, dude, I don't know. Please tell me. And when you see that authenticity come through, you're going to say, I can work with this dude because he's real. And I think that is the connect between all of the generations and the way going forward. That's answer.
brilliant. That's a great answer because I
Great
actually
answer.
agree with
Yeah.
that completely. I think that it makes a lot of sense to me because I think in so many ways that's kind of where we're really trapped right now is like there's such a mask and a facade to all of us. And I don't sometimes even realize that I'm doing it. You know, it's like such an ingrained thing, especially for my generation,
A
that it's
habit, a
like,
behavior.
yeah, it's like,
True.
okay, I'm going into this situation, time to be a chameleon to that situation, right? But then you have the opposite effect that I was kind of talking about, where it's like, I'm going to be so much myself. I don't care about who I offend. I don't care about what things that chaos I cause, right?
Okay, but
It's
there's
all for
boundaries.
myself.
There's
Right,
boundaries, Matt, because you
exactly.
know what? People can say, I'm going to be myself, I'm going to do what I want. But then again, without accountability society, it becomes a time bomb because
That's
there
true.
has to be, there's rules. I mean, if you look at our skin reproduces itself every single day. You know, some part falls away, some part reproduces, but the skin remains, which is one of the wonders of the human being. Okay. And I can tell you that is a fact. But if we actually get out of the boundary of this skin, we will implode. We're just a piece of flesh. So within that authenticity, we need to remain accountable to true laws of society, which goes to a high authority where we all plugged into to understand that's the way it works, man.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Very good.
My pleasure.
I was gonna also say there, I don't know where I got this from, but the day that someone was able to share with me, which was my first billionaire mentor, Roger Penske. And when he made me understand by just asking me, how do you know that? We were in a group discussion. I felt like I wanted to fit in. You know, I wanted to be the guy that was like the new guy, uh, ego impressing, whatever. And he humiliated me in front of that whole group of people by simply asking me, Robert, how do you know that? Do you know how many people, how many sponsorships, how many mothers, how many wives, how many children rely on what we're doing? And you're basically saying we should look at something based off someone else saying it? Like, why aren't you ever taking the time to either research it to find out what it is? And if you're not going to research it, shut up. And it was one of the best lessons I ever learned because now it put me into my mindset where now I questioned everything. And when I questioned everything, I realized how little I know. And when I came from the place that the more I learned, the less I know, the more questions I have. And that really opens up to a different mentality and spirituals. Like, so when Matt and I are discussing something and he's saying, hey, Dad, what do you think of this? there's 1000% respect, listening, not looking for a place to interrupt him, listening. And I know this about a lot of people that know me, is I love to listen. I want to learn. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on here, Doc Ant, because I'm when you first ripped off the wrong word to use. When you talk, you and I got in this thing about acronym, right? And all of a sudden, me and Doc Ant are going back and forth with acronyms. You know what I mean? He's like, this is my one for discipline. I said, this is my one for vision. And we're going back and forth. And it's that's when you know that there's a lot of thought into something when you're writing down what you think are things that are most important for individuals, and you come up with an acronym. And as I said that, I got a download, not that we're going to talk about it on this podcast. We need an acronym for Imagine.
Okay. Game on. I'm in. I'm in. Love my acronyms. We'll do that 100%.
So what do you want? Do you want Craig? Do you want Craig to show your pyramid? Yeah, people are like, what the hell?
I think
they get right into the pyramid.
Coming from you and network marketing, that is priceless. Okay, pyramid.
I was gonna say he was teasing it to me and Craig before we got on here, so I'm excited
Doc,
to see it.
Listen. I will set this up. I was speaking at an event for Eric Worre. I was blessed to speak for him 5 times and close the event out twice. The last time I closed it out, I got to bring up my son and his incredible wife Hannah, because they just got married. They were at the event with my wife Terry, and this is what I did in front of the room. I got up there and I said, listen, a lot of people go, how do you explain what you do? And I say, listen, have you ever heard of these pyramid things? And they get a weary look on their face and they go, yeah. I said, have you ever heard the guy at the top makes all the money? And they go, I have. And I go, I'm that guy.
I love you, Robert.
And then I tell them, listen, it's not a secret. I can teach you how to be that person.
Fantastic.
So go ahead.
100%. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it.
So, Craig, you're going to show that. There you go.
Yeah. When Craig is bringing up the guys, it's just basically for us to see that it's a point of discussion tonight. Because remember, it's not about training. It's about saying, how do I plug into this and understand it? Those are 3 areas. First, we understand in the middle are the 5 areas of Maslow's theory. That starts with the physiological, that is the large scope of, food and shelter, etc., into safety, into love and belonging, into esteem, and then into self-actualization. Now, everybody knows those 5 levels. However, I thought, how do we simplify that the normal guy can say, how do I put this into action in my own life? So I aligned it with our life areas, as you can see on the left-hand side, physical into social, emotional, financial, and spiritual. Because the truth is, that sort of parallels with those areas. But what's most important, I want to talk tonight about impact. Because these impact areas is what's going to take us to the next level. Because either we have the skills to cope with those or we don't. So what we're going to do is say to ourselves, okay, let's look at that physiological level, which is physical. It's work. Why is work literally the impact area at the base of it? Because I believe that 95% of people spend 80% of their lives at work, which means if they don't find a coping mechanism at work, with themselves to remain healthy, to remain in a good state of health, how will they actually be of benefit to their family? Because what is the biggest problem? People dying prematurely, people dying early, people that are not healthy, people that are unhealthy. So that physical area really relates for me to work. So here's the question. And on each one of these levels, just a quick question to get all of us to think. Just dream of the day where you and I are fit enough to enjoy the work that we do, be it initially working for a boss 8 to 5, and then discovering passive recurring income, and then working, but having the longevity and the health to do so, that being fit enough. And you see, all of us get to a crossroad, a junction, a point of our life where we say, I have to do something about what is out there. So for now, thanks, Craig. I just want to say stop at that level from work we can go into environment. But I want to talk about this physical side. Here's the truth. I had to come to a huge decision at a point in my life, and that is that I'm quite a short guy, okay? I'm built like a brick. You guys pick pounds. I am. And I got to a point where my weight escalated to 106 kilograms, which, what is that in pounds? It's 240 pounds. Now, for my short stature, I mean, that is massively heavy. And then I just looked at that, and my wife said to me, do you realize that when you go upstairs, you can't breathe? And I went, you're saying what? You know, and I actually realized I was suffocating. And she said to me, is that who you really are? And I realized, wow, on the base level of impact in my life, to be fit enough physically, I'm actually not there. And the very question I asked myself is, can I dream of a time when it will be better? The question had to come, what will you do about it? And I literally went to losing 20 kilograms. I went from 106 kilograms to 83 kilograms. Well, it's actually 23 kilograms, which from pounds,
Wow.
240 pounds to 182 pounds. Now, that's just over 20% of weight loss. But what happened? I became a better person. But boy, to get there was so difficult. I mean, Robert, you spoke about quitters in society. I mean, in any industry, the amount of quitters we have. And the number one problem is people quit on themselves. And I want to ask, why is it that people quit on themselves? Why can't they just break through and say, what must I do to get to the next level?
You asking me what is it?
Yeah.
I want to hear it from you.
Okay.
Well, I think you and I talked about this a little bit, Doc Ant, that we both agreed that they just don't imagine themselves being better. They don't imagine a better future for themselves. So they don't believe that they can do it. They just don't believe in themselves, and that's why they quit.
You know, if we just talk about the issue of self, the difference between self-esteem, self-discipline, and then self-worthiness, self-worth. Huge difference. And here's the problem at that base level. We are so today engaged in self-image and propping yourself up and looking good. Like I spoke earlier about the mask that we're wearing, that we are just bull dusting everybody else. If we can become the authentic person who we're supposed to be, remove that mask and be real and say, okay, I'm going to deal with what it is, but I'm going to go from self-image to self-belief. And that's a bit of a mind shift. You know, that's an impact area. From self-belief, that self-image can break into self-belief. And as your self-belief starts churning, we start now going into the area of behavior. Now, behavior modification is the key. And that is that if you just come to the point of a willingness to change, that you want to change your behavior. And now we see January in South Africa, after Christmas festivities, you cannot get into a gym anyway because everybody says, yeah, I've overeaten. They get into that gym and you just have no treadmill to run on. Hey, but by the time you get to March, you walk in and you can choose whatever you want. Because guess what? Those quitters aren't there anymore because there's something lacking. And I'm going to keep that. What was the something that is lacking? But the key lies in the word self-worth, because self-image is from yourself, but self-worth has got nothing to do with you, because your self-worth is allocated to you by a source greater than yourself.
Wow.
The day that you grasp your self-worth has got nothing to do with you, and you start engaging that mind and that self-belief, that's when you start ratcheting to the next level, say, out of the physical level into at least the social level, which is that environment we're speaking of.
Powerful.
So, can we hit that next? Now we hit that next level. Now we said, okay, physically, okay, I decided I'm going to do something about my physical status. Some people decide to set goals. Some go and start walking. Some start running. But there's something that can be done. But the key ingredient, we're going to release as it goes. So the next one, if we look at that triangle that we had, was that the impact area was environment. And remember this. This is Doc M's quote. Environment is stronger than will. Who you associate yourself with is who you will become. If you keep on surrounding yourself with a lot of chickens, you will become a chicken yourself. If you are an eagle, man, you need to fly with eagles. You see this eagle watching me? It's actually telling me of a standard all the time, looking over my shoulder, that if I just sort of look to the left, I'm aware that I must realize I'm accountable to a higher source that says to me, fly with me, stop scratching with the chickens. You've always been born to be an eagle. But the thing is, society gets us to plug in, and all of a sudden you start hanging out the chickens, and before you have it, you go, keep, just like them. But you know what? We need to break free. What makes us break free? Behavior modification. We need to find a way and ask, what is the key ingredient that will get us break free so that we can actually overcome where environment is stronger than will, but rather get to in a new environment where the people that you associate yourself with are winners, people who think alike, and people who believe the best of you.
Yes.
Now, Robert, I have to ask you, how do you feel when people come and look you in the eyes and say, Robert, I believe in you? Doesn't that change everything?
Everything. I tell people, Doc Ant, there's only two people that made a huge difference in my life. And because of the lack of and bad environment that I grew up in, all they said is one of my uncles that I seen once a year, he goes, wow, you're really good with your hands. You got great common sense. You should be a mechanic. Now, if no one's ever said I was good at anything, but they're constantly reminding me what I sucked at all the time, you can't read, you can't spell, you can't do this. You're a special kid. That was the first individual that spoke into me. The second one was when I got hurt as an auto mechanic, and now my identity's gone, and I meet my mentor in this industry. And he said, what did you used to do? And of course, the ego comes out, right? And I'm saying, I'm a master automotive technician. I'm the second youngest in the world. And I work for Roger Penske, the most winning race car. I work for Toyota Research and Development. That, because people like to, say that, right? And he looked at me and he went, you are going to crush this. And I went, what? And he goes, the discipline that you did to be the best that you could be at the career that you're at, when you start doing this and mastering this, game over.
Excellent. See, there we have proof how the recognition from the right person at the right time can be everything. It's a one-liner. You are going to crush it. I mean, Robert, and from there on hence, you started believing that you can crush it. That's really what happened.
It
The environment, the environment, the impact of that environment was so strong that you went, I can do this. And that's what makes it beautiful. So then we ratchet up, and now we get into love and belonging, which is our emotional side. Now the guys go like, what do you mean emotions? Well, guys, we have emotions. I can tell you one thing. I cry easily. I cry in movies. Okay, I don't cry at supermarket openings. Not that bad. Some people do. but we are emotional beings, and we grew up, especially you and I. Cowboys don't cry. We're the John Wayne crowd. Cowboys don't cry, man. But yet our kids look at us, and when we can be real, authentic, and just shed a tear, and they go like, hey, this is touching, Dad. They look at, then I can be real. It's when we start role modeling and show, but it's okay to be real with ourselves and to feel it, and authentic. Oh my gosh, how that just changes the emotion, and that changes relationships. Because here's the truth. Relationships work when both parties are emotionally mature, and that's where EQ comes in, that emotional quotient, emotional intelligence that says, if only you can decide to be mature about all your disagreements, nothing will be a problem, which means I actually help people have constructive conflict. In fact, I help them to have a good fight without ever raising their voice, but where they feel that I've had my say, I've heard yours say, we find common ground and we find what's the best solutions for where we are. I'm not scared of conflict. In fact, that's why I help corporate people to resolve conflict, because of relationship. But it starts with emotional quotient. But the person who just lifts off the lid and just loses it, this key ingredient I'm speaking about, that's where that person is the furthest removed from that key that we're talking. You can see I'm trying to tell you about a key. As we turn that key, it's going to change everything. So this relationship becomes a problem. So emotionally, you and I, we work with people that just lose it for anything, that just blow up. That's why people like reality shows. Yeah, it's entertaining, but I sit there and I'm disgusted. And I think to myself, you actually entertain people and you absolutely lose your emotions. You're showing you've got no control whatsoever, no respect for other people. Your success is short-lived. But we live in a society where people crave attention. People crave the extraordinary. It's like people crave to have these magic powers. That's why Harry Potter did so well, because as people, being mundane is just not good enough. They want more than. That's why they fall into drugs and what have you. But here's the truth. Once you reach that high, this is what I hear from those people, you keep on chasing it because you can never get it back again. Why? It starts with this emotional quotient. If you are emotionally mature, you've got the intelligence to say, logic, I should stay away from that stuff because why? I have seen what has happened to people's lives. That is self-relationship. That's looking deep inside yourself to say, be wise, kiddo. Don't go there. That's what it's about. So now we can see three of those we've already ratcheted up in terms of it keeps on coming back sort of to the same key ingredient that's going to make that difference. What will have impact? What's going to change this is the question. Now we get to the two more serious ones. So I'm just laying the seed bed.
No, you're doing. I'm blown away. If you guys are not taking notes, you should be, man. I'm writing down stuff like crazy.
So this is what I call my personal wellness model. If you want personally get well, realize that you need to look at these impact areas through your work, through the environment, through relationships, into lifestyle. Now, there's only one thing that can give you lifestyle: finance. I don't care who you are. If you do not have the money, you cannot go and lie on the beach and drink pina coladas. That's how life works. But the thing is, there's so many people that sit and wait for this miracle that's going to fall out of the sky. It doesn't work that way. I mean, if you look at fishing, you have to get your line in the water, man. Get your line in the water, and somewhere, sometime, a fish is going to bite, and just one day you're going to hook that big one. If we can just realize the importance of having that financial security, and that's why you can see that builds esteem, because where the relationships build your loving and belonging with people, your lifestyle we can show people brings that esteem, and I feel good about myself, and your finances come track, and hey, it's up and down. It's a ladder. You have to get up and down that ladder, because you can't just always go to the top, because it is a journey. But it's that failing forward and trying and getting your financial future right. And it can happen. So I asked the question, because remember in line number one was, why is it that I can't get the discipline to go back to the gym? Line number two with environment, it is a social. Why is it that I start friendships and somehow I just can't maintain those relationships? Line number three, with the relationship itself into emotional. Why do I lose it every now and then? I just cannot control myself. I wish I could. Finances, why is it that just when I think I'm now have a financial breakthrough, I lose it all again? I'm a boy. I'm one of those. I am such a great example of having gone down and up and down. I'm like a yo-yo. But the good thing is failing forward. Every time taking more ground, being more successful. Yes. Why? The learning capacity. I want to grow personally, because this is a personal wellness model. Be well until your self-actualization. It is, what's your purpose? You know, those questions. Who are you? What are you? Why are you? Oh boy. And there's only one way to really fully realize your life purpose. If you can truthfully answer that with a full self-actualization, because the question to ask yourself is, why do I try and have a relationship with a being, a force that is bigger than me, but yet I'm too scared to approach? Because of guilt, because of what you've been told, the lies you've been told. But, I want to just tell you one thing. Tonight's the night for it, but this book, Ogmandino, the greatest miracle in the world, boy, has changed my life. And I can tell you, any person here tonight, if you have not read this, you have lost the connection and the possibility to ever have life purpose and fulfillment. So I want to say to you, get that. And I'll tell you a story. I have a mentor, Daniel van Sale, that in a time when we really, really needed it, just picked up the phone and said, hey, how are you doing? There's a book I want you to read. And that helped me. And that's part of this personal growth. And
Yes.
it's the discipline to take that book and to say, I'm going to actually take these principles and start living them, sharing them, so they can become real. Here's the truth. If you learn about truth and you start sharing it out, it becomes the better version of you.
I agree.
I call it all of us. It's the better version of you. And then spiritually, we start living a life purpose. Now, this is the key for the personal wellness model. But there's one thing that is outstanding, but I want you guys to first ask me questions about it, because I want to then talk about the key and the solution to this. Shoot, anybody. What do you see in this personal wellness?
Well, the first thing that I got to say, and this is just me, again, because of me always seeking for connection, when you connect with me, I'm just in awe. There's not too many people I meet anymore where everything they say I've never heard before. And so that's where I am. Craig?
Well, I agree exactly with the layout that Doc Ant has shared with us. And you just have to step outside of where you are, what you've done, what you recall as your history, what made you to this day. I know a lot of times, Robert, I know I have said in our podcast, my formula of today is A plus B equals C. And in other words, let's see, hold on, sorry. There we go. In other words, what you've done in the past is where you are today. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you're going to be tomorrow. And you can change one of those letters, that part of that equation, by removing, let's say, the A plus B equals C. Let's remove A, insert E, and now we have a brand new equation where we are at point F. Again, I know that's the logic behind it, but if you're trying to visualize something along that line, well, you're not, okay, Robert, you did a 1-minute podcast short earlier about you're not a tree. Thank you, Jim Rohn. You are not a tree. You are a person. You change, you evolve. I mean, what more of a classic example of change and evolution is, okay, you're born, then you're a baby, then you're a toddler, then you're a tween, then you're a teen, then you're a young adult, then you're an adult. Each one of those phases you have gone through, you have changed in some way. And that's just the physical side of things. That's not the mental side, because you've changed also mentally. And that's not to say that you are stuck where you're at. But if you open up your mind, you step out of the box, and you look at what Doc Ant is sharing, what Robert shares, and move on from that. Oh my gosh, the world is your oyster.
Yeah, Craig, when you just said that, I always say that everything in life is based on our expectations of ourselves, right?
Exactly.
And I think that a lot of people, once they become an adult, maybe for some people it's getting a job, maybe for some people getting a job and then getting a degree. And so now this is what everyone expected me to do. There's really no more expectations. Everyone around you just go, if you can do me a huge favor, don't embarrass me, and, don't get put in prison, and maybe have some kids and get married and have a decent home. Can you keep a steady job? Can you imagine going to a group of people that you grew up and said, I just want to ask one thing. What do you really expect from me? Uh, um, be happy. Are you happy? Hell no. It's like, it's like there's really no more evolving. There's no other level. And I'm going like, so when you see this thing, this pyramid that Dr. Doc Ann put up, is I want to get to the next level. I want to get to the next level. I want to be walking the planet 1000% on the highest speed that I can be connected to. And just yeah. So thank you. Matt, you got anything to add?
No, I love what you shared because like I think just like you said, Dad, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know where from, but I just as you said, Dad, I think in so many ways you just want to like move up. And I think in a lot of ways too, I always like advocate, and this is something I learned myself, but like exactly what Craig was saying a little bit earlier with that grace. Like when I fall down in certain spots on that pyramid, I accept that I need to be graceful with myself and moving back up instead of like hating myself for not being where I used to be. Because like you guys have even shared, like I haven't experienced as many ups and downs, financially in my life as of yet. I'm definitely going to be taking risks over the next couple of years that could potentially end up in that. But I think in so many ways, learning how to rebuild yourself is like half the process.
Yes.
Like half the process is figuring out where am I right now, meeting yourself where you're at, and then working yourself back up that tree. Because sometimes my self-esteem is very low, like my esteem. And then just like you're saying, it kind of like permeates my relationships, everything, right? Like when I have a lot of self-esteem, I feel like I can move mountains, right? Like
Yep.
I feel like I can even change people's states of excitement or feelings about life. But when I'm down, I have exactly the same level of talent in the opposite direction. And it's being
Very
aware that
good.
I'm at that
Awesome.
spot of the pyramid that I need to actually somewhat isolate and rebuild myself because I could actually be quite a destructive force in that place. And so that was like one of those huge realizations to me. But thank you so much, Doc Ant, for sharing that. I'm definitely gonna be
But
looking over it
Matt,
more and more.
I want to thank you so much that you actually have said that you find yourself slipping down and going up
Mm.
again and coming down. That's exactly the process of life. And that is why I believe this podcast actually started for tonight. And that is where I started telling Robert, I said, Robert, I started asking the question, what can make the difference? Why is it that we cannot find a direction to get up and continue going up? What will make the difference? And I literally was looking for that answer. And then one day I felt inspired and I got a whisper of the answer. And the answer is right here. It's called the discipline lifestyle. And I went, and you'll see that the way the discipline is written is in a very different way. Okay? Because I actually asked the question, discipline, why discipline? How can that make the difference? And I just felt inspired to say, spell it. And I went, DISC. Oh my gosh, disc. The four behavioral types. That means all mankind. They're all uniquely different, but they're all mankind. But you need to treat them differently to get a different response. I mean, you, the behavior guy, you cannot work the same way with a D that you can work with an I. You can't work the same way with an I, work with a C. It's way different. So the word disc fell in. I went, okay, so that needs to be expounded. I went, okay, disc, I. And I looked up and I actually saw a mobile tower where the signal is relayed from to our mobiles. And then I realized that one of my guys that actually spending time with me, his heart is communication, and he uses a little mobile tower with three little waves on the side as that I. And we that's what the I for. It's for communication. So not only do we need to speak to people through who they are, but we need to find a way to communicate to them so that we can help solving the problem so they can start ratcheting up and continue on that journey of self-personal growth because of this one key. And then I went, okay, what's the last part? PLINE. Guys, I was battling with that one. And then I like sort of said, okay. And I just heard this, well, you're the acronym guy. Put it together. I went, oh, okay. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I actually trademarked it because there's one verse in the greatest book of all time that said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and love your neighbor, here it comes, as yourself. And I went, boom. PLINE was putting love into execution. It hit me. So here's the truth, guys. If you and I can take this and put love into execution, and that is that we love ourselves enough, we will answer every single question from the bottom up. When it's physical, is to love yourself enough to start the exercise regime. If it comes to social encounters, to love yourself enough to say, I'm good enough to share time with X. Why can I not spend time with Robert Hollis? Because he understands humility. Why not? Then it comes to that emotional quotient. And that is to say, I can cope. I can learn to count to 1, 2, 3, up to 10 and control my emotions and not lose it. I mean, who wins when you hit a brick wall? Well, not you. Okay. So it's true. And then when you get to the next level in terms of finances, and that is to say to yourself, is find alternative ways to purpose your money. Money makes money. I don't care what you say. But the thing is, you always think you need to have a $10,000 before you can make money. That's not true. All you need is $100 to become $200, and you've doubled your money. And it then becomes a case of multiplication. But you need to learn how to purpose your money. But why? Love yourself enough to say, do not spend it. I mean, it's so easy to pay off the debt, but it's more wise to put it into a vehicle that purposes your money to work for you. And then when it comes to the spiritual realm, love yourself enough to realize there's nothing that you have to do, because just look at who you are. Just check out your skin. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you're still inside your skin, man. Nobody's taken it away. Every single day you wake up, you're still in your skin. One of the biggest marvels of mankind. And then I just realized that if we can learn to discipline ourselves, and I was going to write this book by myself, and then I just had this, no, share the goodness. And that's why I want to share with you, gentlemen. There's 6 authors here, and I want to give all 6 of these authors, each one, a specialist in the areas. There's 3 doctors on this thing, okay? And I want to tell you that each one of these people have contributed to a chapter in this book. I wrote on behavior modification, and then we had them unfold each one of those areas. Starting on the bottom, physical, Saria van Wijngaard, who is a fitness coach, who actually teaches, who is Michelle's gym instructor that helped her lose how many kilograms of weight, but helping in real life. But she wrote on, this is how you do it. This is how you discipline yourself. This is how you love your body. This is how you eat. This is how you diet, etc. Then we moved to the next level, and that was the social level. Annelies Boot, who's a socialite that loves to go art and goes into society, and she says to people, come, let's go and enjoy Shakespeare. Let's ask ourselves, what do we get out of it? And she wrote in the book, it was how to socially be connected. Then we got to the middle, emotions. Dr. Mamiki Malapo. She wrote on emotional quotient, so that you and I can understand as beings, how do we put that into fruition. Then we hit finance. I can tell you one thing, the person that's role model to me how to manage finance is Dr. Michelle van Tonder. And it was an honor for me to ask her to write that, because she has been a role model of taking anything and making it work and purposing money. So I wrote on the principles of money. And then lastly, Dr. Ruchi Achukwu wrote about spiritual discipline. So guys, this book has been put together, and at the end of each one of these chapters, I summarize in the area, for instance, on emotional. How does it impact the 4 different behavioral types? How does it impact the D? How does it impact the I? How does it impact the S? How does it impact the C? So every single chapter is encapsulated with behavior, because if you love yourself enough to discipline yourself enough, you will go to the next level. Break free tonight and love yourself enough, because you know what? It's not about self-image. It's about your self-worth. And I'm looking you in the eye and I'm saying to you, you are exactly who you need to be. You need to believe in yourself, because your worth starts with 100%. You're not a mistake. That's me.
Wow.
I'm just waiting for Craig to say mic drop.
Yeah, Well,
Yeah. Doc Ant, I've just learned so much. I could spend hours and hours with you. Can you really quickly go over, the what they get with this free PDF that we'll have Craig talk about?
Okay, and that is because of everybody on this call tonight. I would actually like for you to consider you better be on Robert Hollis's YouTube. That's the first thing. But I want to ask you, plug into my YouTube, because he challenged me to start a YouTube channel. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it. And because of that, I'm giving a free gift tonight called How to Generate a 7 Generational Legacy. So how to put up a 7 generational legacy is a free PDF book that Craig has in his possession. And any person that says, hey, I want the book, Craig, thank you so much. I can ask you to please have those people receive them. And that is my gift to you, because it's ultimately not about us. It's about what we leave behind for those who are still coming. And here's a bit of a tip. It's not for your children. It's for your children's children. And through them, you'll reach a 7 generational legacy. It's a tough one, but enjoy it with absolute love from my heart.
and there's the book, Leaving a 7 Generation Legacy. And we do have the link. I posted it in the chat, and it will also be in the description below the video at the conclusion of this podcast.
Well, I would normally at this time go into my final word, but Dr. Ant did it. And so any last word, Craig, Matt?
No, I agree completely. Like I appreciate having you on here so much, Doc Ant. Thank you so much for sharing. Like the amount of positivity that we have in chat for the stuff that you're sharing. Like some people have said they're in tears because they're learning things about themselves. So thank you so much for helping us make an impact here with everyone else. And thank you so much for taking that extra step to share with everyone that free gift as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Doc Ant, go ahead and share any last words to people.
All I want to say is, Robert Hollis, I love you. And thank you that you've shown your human kindness to people, and that you are love in action. And that is why today I have embraced the courage to say, I'm going to live my gift and speak to the world, which before I was scared to do. I thank you.
Oh, thank you. And, for some of you guys know that you're part of my group and Inner Circle and also the Imaginators. When I told Doc Ant that he needed to create a YouTube channel so I could promote it, how many videos you got on it now?
About 18, I think.
So this is a man of action. His wife, Michelle, is also a sweetheart. I can't wait to have her talk on a podcast very, very soon. But thank you so much for your time. I know it's late there in South Africa. And were you born and raised in South Africa?
Absolutely. One town, one school, all my life. Yes.
Wow. So every one of you, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to the hostess with the mostest, Craig, and he's going to close us out. And again, Doc Ant, man, that was amazing. Totally amazing.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Craig. Love you guys.
Love you.
Doc Ant, thank you very much. Robert, Matthew, also thank you. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I posted the link to the free book by Dr. Anthony Van Tonder, Leaving a 7 Generational Legacy. That's in the chat, and it will also be in the description below this video. So now you should be able to find it after this podcast is concluded if you're watching the replay. You can follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. Also, if you'd like to join our exclusive community or communities, the Inner Circle and the Imaginators, you can join us by going to roberthollis.com/join to register. There will be lots of great exclusive content, and you'll be able to participate in our special breakthrough sessions to help you move on to the next level. Please don't forget to like and share this video on YouTube and with others. It will help our community grow and reach those with ears to hear. And thank you, and again, shout out to our executive producer and visionary, Matt Hollis, for being there behind the scenes. Matt, we appreciate you. We love you very much, and we're so glad to have you with us. Robert, bless you. Thank you for being our GPS to success. Our guide, Dr. Ant, Thank you so much for an incredible podcast. And thank each and every one of you for joining us today. We appreciate that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule to join us and to follow us. Until next time, this is Craig A. Jackman. Please be good to yourselves, be cash, and until next time, bye-bye for now.
Love you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great
Love and
night.
appreciate you.